So, Sean, a different day, a different bung from our Prime Minister. If you set your alarm for about sort of 8 o'clock, I think it is, they do these press releases. Sure as eggs is eggs. There's another cost of living measure, which you get your calculator out and work out that it's the square root of bugger all. But anyway, I guess Mr. Burnham's happy. And what I'm talking about is this strategy, which is clearly around right now, of daily announcements of giveaways. And today's was an interesting one. It was a 20% reduction in business rates for pubs, clubs, and music venues. So I was thinking, is that going to mean very much to the electorate? Who's going to benefit from that? Clearly positive, but I was listening to a guy on a phone in this morning who owns a pub, saying it's all tokenism and it's not really the issue. So I don't know. But that was today. And all of these are proposedly funded, but not. They're all a little bit flaky, and when scratched, quite a lot of the paint comes off.
Well, I heard this morning's one was going to be funded by putting extra charges on vape shops, wasn't it? Because
yes.
He doesn't like vape shops for some unknown reason.
What if you're a vape shop person?
Well, I heard a guy, I can't remember the exact title, but like the guy who's top of the Institute of Vape Manufacturers or something, he was on the radio this morning.
In a cloud of pink smoke.
He was trying to make the case that it was dreadful because it was these people who got vape shops are trying to improve the nation's health. And it was a health issue. Yeah, that it was.
Has anyone done the calculation? Do vape shops outnumber pubs, clubs, and music venues? Because I'm just wondering if it's going to add up.
I think they probably do now, to be quite honest. There's a new vape shop opening. I don't know. But vape shops and also the online, there was some vague talk about the warehouses, wasn't there? The Amazons of this world are going to have to pay more to.
We've been through that one before.
Well, yeah. It's all a bit fluid, isn't it? And you're quite right in what you're saying. It's interesting today's one because today's one is where ostensibly it's to help small business, isn't it? In theory, whereas up to now it's been to help anybody, a consumer, the man on the street. But the fact that they're now knocking 20% off their business rates isn't going to mean that your pint is any cheaper, as you quite rightly point out when you go into the pub. It just means that I think it works out about £1,000 a year for the average pub that they're going to save as a result of this. And I'm not sure that's going to make any, because to be able to increase their business, they need to get their prices down, don't they, really? This is just going to be taken into a lesser loss or a greater profit for the business, isn't it? And do you think that's going to have any fundamental effect, £1,000 a year?
No, at the margins, it might save, a handful of pubs from going under, I think. So that would be all right. But it feels like tokenism, and I really don't like it. It's like scratching around for a headline. But so that's that one anyway. Your local music venue will be feeling slightly better. We've also had the VAT removal on fuel, which is on average going to make a difference of £45 a year, but not at the moment.
No, that doesn't come until January or something.
Don't come until January.
And it's only for 6 months as well, isn't it?
Yes.
So it's only £22.50.
Now, this was an interesting one. Yes, that's a good point. Because that was fully funded by not rolling out national ID, or at least that's what he thought, until Darren Jones, who in the previous podcast we pointed out didn't have
Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Yes. And might bear a grudge, was quick to point out that the ID scheme was never funded either. So the VAT reduction scheme is funded by a fund that was never funded. So that was not a good start. That was the first announcement, wasn't it? Under the cost
well, there was an argument to this, wasn't there? Because the argument was, contrary to that, was that departments have been asked to produce savings to be able to fund it, and therefore those savings that they were going to produce to fund it are going now to be used to cut this VAT on.
Even though they haven't found the savings yet.
Even though they haven't found them yet. No, they're not. But they were. I think the other thing
try this with you. That money I owe you, can I pay you with the money I haven't quite found yet, but I pledge to find?
No, I'm afraid not. No. I think the other thing that I find quite confusing, because I've in principle, I think I'd moved on to being in favor. I know we've discussed this before, but being in favor of the idea of ID in the sense of the money that it would save within things like the National Health Service, so that every time you go to a hospital or a doctor's, you don't have to go through this endless, where do you come from, what's your name, what's your address, what's your national health number. You just produce a card with a QR thing on it. Now that, in theory, would have saved hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds a year in terms of administrative costs. And now you've thrown that out the window, haven't you? In terms of just a giveaway, really, and a small giveaway at that. But it makes, I suppose, as you pointed out at the beginning, it grabs the news agenda for a day. And it's also being, if truth be known, they're talking about the energy cap going up again next month, aren't they? And wiping out 4 or 5 times over this.
Yeah, Martin Lewis said it was good news, but dwarfed by the increase in the energy price cap. It's Cornwall Insight. They got a Cornwall Insight own these predictions. They're quoted on everything. Yeah, I don't know why it's Cornwall, but
no.
Anyway,
yeah.
So that obviously didn't. I don't think that's excited you either, by the sound of things.
Not really.
But this will float your boat. But as we know, Mr. Burnham has form in the bus industry. Famously turfing out private ownership of buses in Greater Manchester and bringing them back into public ownership. I think that's the gist of it. And because of this, he's motivated to bring back the £2 cap on single bus fares, backed by about £500 million worth of government funding. I didn't see where that was going to come from either, but let's not split hairs. I have an objection on principle on this, in that having just got my senior bus pass, it'll have bugger all effect on me.
Well, you could start paying, and then then you'd see the benefit.
I could. Actually, I did have to pay yesterday when I tested out the NHS, and because my appointment was 9:30, I had to get a bus before the period when it's free. So I would have had the benefit of the £2 cap then.
How much did it cost you in the end?
£3. £3 for one way.
Oh yeah, because it's a £3 cap at the moment, isn't it? So it's
yeah.
Well, I was working. I was when they announced this, I was trying to work out how it would affect. Be interesting to know, and I haven't done the figures, I'm afraid, how many people use the buses each, because in the big conurbations, which is where most people, I would contend, use the buses, most of them have already got some sort of limit. I mean, this has no effect on London, because apparently they've got a £1.75 limit already in London, so £2 would take it up. So they're staying where they are. They've also got, in Brighton, where we used to come from, and I should imagine Manchester as well, and London especially, they've already got a daily cap, haven't they, above which you can't spend any more. So I think it's like a daily pass, so £4.
Oh, okay, a bit like the Oyster cards.
Yeah. Most of these big areas have. I guess where it comes into its own is if you're living in an area like yours or mine and you're commuting into a local big city. So if you're going into Bristol from where you are, or you're going into Bath from here, and you would normally hit the £3 mark, and you're going in and back, and you haven't got a weekly ticket or what have you, then I suppose instead of paying £3, you're paying £2, and that's £10 a week. You could, in principle, be saving. That's £40 a month on your commuting. There's lots of ifs, buts, and maybes, because I would imagine if you buy a weekly or an annual ticket, you'll get the price relatively lower anyway.
The tickle me, there's some reporter running around some town centre yesterday desperately to find someone who got on a bus. But he was obviously not looking near a bus stop, which felt a bit weird. But yeah, I mean, undoubtedly, it will encourage bus travel. I think that's because I don't know why, but the psychology between 2 and 3 is probably a little bit different. The trouble with these subsidies, and the Treasury would say this, is it's not in any way tested to make sure you're not putting an extra pound in the pocket of people who could well afford it. But it's too complicated to do it any other way. I suppose of all the measures announced, that's the one that is the most obvious and people will actually feel, if that makes sense.
It does. It
You will
does.
feel it when you present your debit card. You won't see £3 going out, it's £2.
And I think what you said there is interesting, because I would contend that going into the pocket of people who can afford it, I guess most bus usage will be from people who don't drive cars, who have to use public transport, backwards and forwards in terms of their daily commute to maybe lower end. It might encourage those, would it? If you were driving in and you were looking at saving yourself, would that £10 a week make that much difference between driving or catching a bus?
I think, yes, there's undoubtedly people who don't have cars, whether they're elderly, disabled, or just can't afford to run a car. But there's also plenty of people who own a car, but because they work in a city and you can't park anywhere and it's logjam, they'll get the bus because it's the most convenient way of travel. So it'll definitely help them. I remember when our youngest lived with us, when it was £2, it was cheaper for him to pay the £2 than it was to get a full weekly ticket. So he was very happy with that. But the point I guess we should make is all these things are little bits here and there. They're not big picture. They're not economic strategy. My worry for Burnham is that he thinks this is going to work on a country basis. It might have worked in Manchester.
And what's quite interesting on that, sorry to interrupt, what's quite interesting on exactly what you're saying is that he made big play of the fact that when he was campaigning in Makerfield, the policy that was getting most cut through when he was talking on the doorsteps was increasing personal allowances. And he's now, since he's been elected as PM and Labour Party leader, he's backing away from a commitment to increase personal allowances, which clearly somebody at the Treasury has had a word and said, do you know how much this is going to cost?
It's 30 billion.
Yeah, much better to give him a quid off bus fares. Or, so interesting that he himself recognises, unless he's going to surprise us all, sometimes there's this play acting, isn't there, to sort of suggest that it's all too expensive and then presented a budget. I would just say I'm disappointed that we're going to have to wait again until the end of October, beginning of November, for a budget to get any serious policies on the board. You'd expect after the last time, when Sakir took over and we had to wait and wait and wait and wait, I would have hoped that they'd have had an emergency budget ready to go within, a month of taking office. But it's not going to happen, is it?
It's another feature of the broken political model. In that they're not prepared. They're clearly not prepared, because you wouldn't be doing all this, excuse my French, farting around. You'd be doing the big picture stuff. He has said, hasn't he, that the personal allowance issue will be reviewed as part of the budget. But here we go. None of this was presented in any manifesto. No. Whatever he's thinking about in the person that wasn't presented. It is the way we do democracy here. But so my view is that these things are very tactical. We'll probably have another 7 before we meet next week. He's got to be careful he doesn't exhaust the public with little bits here and there that won't make any difference. And he doesn't, he focuses on the minnows rather than the big fish, which he can do strategically. And the last thing to mention, none of this can be scrutinized in the House either. So that's not great. But in the meantime, I will work out how I'm going to spend my £45 for a half year. You've really upset me now. And how I'm not going to spend my £1 on a bus fare that I will probably no longer pay.